frame of any of the sequels. And I'm not interested in them. I actually did see maybe 2 or 3 minutes of Exorcist II. I was at the Technicolor lab, and one of the color timers said, "Hey, we're running Exorcist II. Do you want to go in the screening room and have a look at it?" And I was over there doing something else, and I said, "Okay, sure." So I went in the screening room, and I see some guys riding on the back of a bumblebee or some fucking thing. It was unreal. And I left. And now I'm going to tell you the story of the first screening of Exorcist II, the sneak preview in Pasadena. This was Exorcist II, and it was told to me by an executive of Warner Brothers, because the executive said, "Oh, you got to come out to see the sneak preview. It's really terrific, and you're going to love it. You're a grandfather. You should be proud." And I said, "No, I think I'll miss it." And then afterwards, he told me the story. These Warner Brothers executives drove out to Pasadena in their big limousines, and they were all dressed up, and they went into the theater, which was packed, turn-away crowds, and they went and sat in the last row. And about 10 minutes into the film, now, before they went into the theater, they told their limo drivers, "Look, we're going to be in there for like 2 hours and 20 minutes, or maybe more. You guys go on down the end of the block. There were some fast food joints." They went down to get a cup of coffee, whatever. So the limos are gone. The executives go into the last row. 10 minutes into the picture, a guy stood up in the audience. He stood up and he looked around and he said, "The people who made this piece of shit are in this room." And somebody else said, Where are they?" 10 or 12 people get up, and he says, "They're all back there." Now, these guys got up, the heads of the studio, they got up, they ran out of the theater. They get outside, no cars. The cars are all down at McDonald's and all that, and they were chased down the street. That was the first public reaction to Exorcist II. And you asked me, Peter, if I have seen any of these things. Like I'd sit there. Oh my God. Spare me.
You saw Repossessed, right?
No, I didn't see Repossessed. I missed that one.
Anyone else? Yeah, go for it.
Just going back to the music for a second. This is the first time I've seen the film since 1977 on the big screen. I was one of those who devoted lovers of the movie. But it's the last movie I know of that had an overture. Because I remember sitting in the theater, before the film began, for 10 minutes, you heard the music of Tangerine Dream. And that goes back to like the roadshow films where you have an overture before the film began. I wish there was an overture for this. Is it going to be on the DVD? Like the
No,
overture?
because people have no tolerance for that, sir. That was with films like Lawrence of Arabia, and big roadshow productions. They would play the music for 10 minutes or so before the movie started. And I had an overture to Sorcerer, but it was not the music of Tangerine Dream. It was Antonio Carlos Jobim. It was bossa nova music. And, but no, people have no tolerance for that anymore. They want to get in and get out. It's a different kind of audience today than it was in the 60s and before. Obviously, this film's not as fast-moving as pictures are today. You don't have the shot change every 3 or 4 seconds of the film, you hold on things, and that's why it's very much a film of the 70s. Although, in every other way, I don't believe it's really dated. There's nothing about the hairstyles or the clothes or anything else that make it dated. and the acting is understated. You know, it's not over the top like a lot of the films were, you know, 40, 50 years ago and more. So I don't feel it's dated, but there are certain things that really would stretch a normal audience's credulity.
Who else? Just trying to see if there's anyone in the back. Yeah, right in the back there. Yeah.
You filmed what I consider, with the French Connection and To Live and Die in LA, probably two of the most iconic car chase scenes. Did you expand on the difficulties in that, and any trouble you had with those scenes, those sequences?
The question is about the car chase scenes that I filmed. Before you film, I never storyboarded any of the scenes for my films. I would have them in my mind's eye. I have the whole film in my mind's eye before I shoot it. And if it doesn't get in there, then I don't want to do the picture. And I pulled away from many films because of that. I couldn't envision it. But when you shoot a car chase, you have to plan it a little better because it's dangerous. But shooting it is very much like knitting. Have any of you ever done any knitting? What the hell are you laughing at? He staged a car chase. No, it's really like knitting. You ever seen someone like knit a sweater and it's knit one, purl two, knit one, purl two. The filming of a car chase is like that. One shot at a time. One stitch at a time. But in your mind's eye, you have to see the whole thing. Now, if any of you were on the set watching the car chase of the French Connection or To Live and Die in LA or Jade, you would not think it was going to be that interesting or even dangerous. You would be bored and eventually you'd drift off because you would not know how one shot would fit to the next and the next, and what the addition of sound would do. And that's what has made a lot of my chase scenes. The sound is all done later, and sometimes it's boosted, sometimes I add elements to it, you know, and you do it a shot at a time. It's like not only painting, but like composing a note at a time. And I saw these scenes in my mind's eye based on having seen the locations. And the locations dictated what I was going to do. And then I would take advantage of my own imagination at the time and the suggestions of people on the crew. Would say, hey, wouldn't it be great to have this happen over here? Yeah, let's do it. You know, because film is a very collaborative work. And the people I've collaborated with have contributed a great deal to my films, for which I'm very grateful to them, and they know it, and they know who they are. Yeah, I see them, and then I go out to do them, and then sometimes accidents happen, not, thank God, serious accidents, but accidents occur, and you have to be ready to take advantage of those and use them. Because they're often, you know, things you didn't plan, but that look great. But it's the two most difficult things to film in a movie. I use that word film, you notice?
Yeah.
We can't really use that much longer. Film is dead, I'm sorry to say. They're not making anymore. Eastman Kodak or Fuji, done. No more film cameras being made. Projectors like this are being hauled out. It's all going digital, whether we like it or not. That's called progress. But the most difficult things to film, in my view, are comedy and a chase scene. You know, for example, what is funny? What do people think is funny? That's not easy to come by. And the next most difficult thing to film is a good chase scene. It's much easier today with computer-generated imagery. You can do almost anything on a computer and make it look pretty convincing. Now, the guy who did both, the only guy I know who did both as a master was Buster Keaton, who filmed comedy and chase scenes better than anybody. And if I had seen Keaton's films before I made The French Connection, I never would even have attempted to film a chase scene. I don't know how they did that stuff. I have no idea how Keaton, who not only conceived of these ideas, but acted in those scenes. He acted in them, and you couldn't see through a viewfinder. I mean, you couldn't see a playback. You didn't know if you were getting it or not. And he did stuff that is so dangerous, but so clever, so brilliant, that he makes everything I've done, he's rendered it meaningless in the history of film. If you ever see any of the Buster Keaton movies or the chase scenes, that's as good as it gets. And I'm only fortunate that I saw them after I had made some of my own chase scenes, because none of the ones that I had seen intimidated me at all.
Yeah, right there.